All right, guys. So today, this is Mr. Wilcox, and we're going to work on dividing whole numbers and decimals. This is a continuation of the last video where we divided whole numbers by whole numbers using two-digit divisors. We are now going to put our decimals in there. We're going to work with our decimals. So when the divisor is a whole number, but the dividend has a decimal, you are going to float the decimal from the dividend up and follow the steps to divide. So if we remember from previous, we're going to follow our normal steps to divide, which is going to be divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, floating that decimal up, I like to just have my students go ahead and bring it straight up. If you want to call it float, it's a way if you want to characterize it, that's fine as well. So what we're going to do is we want to make sure that on our first example here, we get that written down. It's going to be 304 and 75 hundredths divided by 53. So this is our first example that we're going to try. Okay, so 53 will not go into 3. 53 will not divide into 30. So will 53 divide into 304? Yes, it will. And I've already done some of my math over here. 53 times 5 ends up being 265. So that will go in 5 times. So I've divided. Now I'm going to multiply. 5 times 53 gives me 265. I'm going to subtract because that's my next step in my division. So I'm still following the normal subtraction, the normal division steps by dividing, multiplying, subtract, and bring down. So I'm at the subtract now. I'm going to go ahead and subtract my numbers here. Okay, and I'm going to, here, that's 2. Not there, still need to come over there. So that is going to be 9. 9 minus 6 is 3, and then 2 minus 2 is 0. If you want to put the 0 there, you can. Okay, so now, after I've done my subtraction, now my next step is to bring down. I still haven't done the decimal here yet. That decimal is still sitting right there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that number down, the 7. So now I'm going to see how many times will 53 go into 397. I can still do my math over here to the side, and I'm going to try maybe, let's see, 7 times. I believe it will go in 7 times. 3 times 7 is 21. Bring my 1 here. Bring my 2 up to the top here. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 2 is going to give me 37. That's 371. So that'll go in 7 times. Then I'm going to multiply because that's my next step, which I just did over here. So it's 371. I'm going to subtract because that's my next step in division. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. So I'm at subtract now. And 7 minus 1 is 6. 9 minus 7 is 2. And if you want to put your 0 there, 3 minus 3 is 0. So that leaves me with 26. And my next step is to bring down because I've already divided, I multiplied, I've subtracted, and I'm going to bring down that 5. And yes, I drew my arrows here to keep my numbers in line. So that's a good practice to get that taken care of. So now how many times will 53 go into 265? I believe that goes in 5 times. And I know that because I showed my work right over here that helps me figure that out. So that will go in 5 times. 5 times 53 is going to give me 265. I subtract those out. I get 0. I have no more. There's no remainders. I have nothing left. So does it look like I'm done? Nope, I got to do one thing. I have to float that decimal up, or I like to say just move it straight up. I'm going to draw my arrow, and I'm going to move that decimal straight up. So my answer is 5 and 75 hundredths. Okay, now you are going to do one, and the one you're going to try is 306 and 25 hundredths divided by 49. Okay, pause the video if you need to. Go ahead and work that one out and rewind if necessary if you need to do so. Okay, guys, this is our last problem here. We are going to divide 165 divided by 20. It looks pretty simple, but let's see if we could possibly get a different answer and maybe possibly a remainder, or there may be one other strategy that you could use. So let's go ahead and begin. 20 will not go into 1, so if you need to put an X there, or if you decide that you don't need to put anything there, that's perfectly fine as well. 20 will not go into 16, but will 20 divide into 165? Yes, it will. 20 will go into 165, I believe, 8 times. So I can do my multiplication over here on the side. So 0 times 8 is 0. 8 times 2 is 16. So I have 160. So I can go ahead and put my 8 right here. And I'm going to follow my steps. I divided. Now I'm going to multiply these two, which I've already done my work to the side. That is 160. Now I'm going to subtract. And then my last step is to bring down. So, well, there's nothing to bring down. Or is there? Okay, at the end of every whole number, there is always a decimal. Okay, and I can put a little magic 0, if you will. Okay, I can continue my steps because I'm out of place values. I have no more steps to go. So I'm going to go ahead and put my decimal here. I'm going to add my magic 0, and then I'm going to bring that down because it's divide, multiply, subtract, and then bring down. So I'm going to bring down a 0 instead of having that remainder of 5. I'm going to see if I can evenly have a decimal as my quotient. So I'm going to bring that down. So 20 will go into 50 how many times? I believe that will go in twice. So I'm going to go ahead and do 20 times 2, which is 40. Okay, so I can go ahead and put 2 there. 2 times 20 is 40. I do my subtraction. I'm still following my divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. As I mentioned in the previous video, dad, mom, sister, brother. Okay, now that is 10. Now what else could I do? I need to bring down. That is my next step because I've done my subtraction. Now I got to bring something down. Well, I can add another magic 0 there. I can go ahead and draw my arrow and go ahead and bring that down. So now I have 100. Will 20 go into 100 evenly? Yes, it will. 20 times 5, I believe, and I'm going to work this right over here. 20 times 5. 0 times 5 is 0. 2 times 5 is 10. Yes, it will go in evenly. 5 times 20 is 100. I subtract. There is no remainder. There is nothing else to bring down. Now, there's one last step, one last thing that I need to do. And if you think you know what that is, go ahead and do that right now. Pause the video if you think you know what that is. And yes, it is to bring that decimal or float that decimal straight up and put it right there. Just move that decimal straight up. My answer is 8 25/100. Okay, now that you've done that, it's going to be your turn. Okay, you are going to try this one here. It's going to be 121 divided by 40. Go ahead and pause your video, work that out, and this is the last problem that you will try. We will go over these at class tomorrow. Thank you guys. Have a good night.